sweet love.
Hello everyone, and I want to welcome you to Serious Saturday. So today we're going to be talking about something that, I don't know, I just thought that I should share with the world my experience. So we're going to be talking about roommate problems today.
Yellow CARD 미소 넘으면 침범이야 beep.
So I just wanted to start out by saying, of course I'm not going to use the name of the person or anything like that, but I just wanted to, inform people that when you get a roommate or when you trust somebody to be your roommate, remember to always ask yourself if this is the right decision. Always make sure you ask yourself if something were to happen in this type of situation, what would this person do? And make sure you trust that person. That is, I'd say that's key. I am somebody who was very easily fooled into thinking that I trusted someone, and that is where my problems came from. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about that, about the trouble that I have with this roommate. So this roommate that I had, let's call her Nicole. So me and Nicole had been working at Target together, and we were working at Target, and we were kind of close. We were closer than most of the other people that I hung out with. And I was working, of course, like if you've seen my other videos, I've explained like I was working in Starbucks, and then I moved to produce, and then I kept bouncing back and forth. So when I was in Starbucks, Nicole didn't seem to want to be around me as much. There was more people that interested her and were friends with her because they had known her for the longest. Of course, me, I was kind of newer and didn't know her that well, so of course I didn't understand any of her jokes. I didn't understand anything about her. But of course, as I continued to work in Starbucks and a little bit after I moved to produce, did me and her become closer. So with Nicole, Nicole had her own little daughter. And of course, I'm not going to say the little girl's name on here, but she had her own little daughter. Her daughter was, I'd say, about 3 or 4. And, I was always, like, seeing her daughter around with her. And her daughter was pretty adorable, I admit that. She decided she wanted to confide to me secrets about what was going on in her relationships, about what was happening with her and working in this job. So Nicole would tell me that there were guys in different departments that worked in the store who she would sleep with, who she had relationships with, and who she would love to sleep with. And this was like a huge no-no for working with Target, because anybody who knows and has worked in Target knows that they warn you and tell you that they would not like for you to sleep with each other. But of course, some people ignore it, and she was one of those people who really ignored the fact that it was like a huge no-no in the workplace. So she would tell me of the guys that she would sleep with and she would go to bars with and get drunk and would take home and all these different type of things. And, I would listen and try and, like, help her and give her advice and everything about, what to do next. Because she always had the big question, like, what do I do? Do I text him? Like, what do I do? So with Nicole, I, would just talk to her about everything. And, of course, working in produce and her working in deli, she could easily access me by just moving from around the counter and just coming over there to where I was putting up like potatoes or grapes or something, and she could just easily talk to me about the situation. So as time went on, I, always like loved hanging around Nicole, and I wanted to like, hang out with her and do whatever. And of course I had no friends here, so it was always nice to have somebody my age who I could hang out with. And of course, the one little thing was she had a kid, but I mean, who cares? I mean, I love children, so why would I care if she had a child or not? So I would eventually go to Nicole's house, and her and her daughter, we would play around and everything. And it got to the point where she decided to tell me that there were things going on at her house that she just didn't really like. She was staying with her grandmother at the time, and she hated her grandmother. She talked about, killing her grandmother, hating how her grandmother would always bash her mothering skills. And anybody who's a mother knows that, like, you don't like when people bash your mothering skills. So, of course, she had that whole problem that was going on at home. Well, it came to a time where she said that it really gotten worse and that she wanted to move out. So I suggested on my day off and her day off that we could go and we could find her an apartment to live in. So of course, my day off and her day off, we were, driving around with my husband, and we were trying to look for her an apartment to live in that was really cheap in the area of work and a daycare. So that's pretty tough, especially when you were when we were living in Denver. Denver doesn't have many options. You have downtown Denver, and then you have just regular Denver, and then you have all these high class Denver areas, and it's just really hard to try and find a place that fits all those things. So we did go look in a few different places. She wanted to look close to her grandmother's house if she couldn't find one that was really close to a daycare, just so her grandmother could watch her daughter. And then of course she wanted to find one that was near us in case, when she had a day off, she could hang out with me if I had the same day off, or if I had a day off, I wouldn't mind babysitting her kid. So it just got to the point where we had been looking for, apartments all day, and it was so tiring that me and my husband decided to just come back, to the apartment, and we were going to have her chill out and hang out with us. Well, during this time, me and her talked, and I actually didn't mind the thought of having a roommate. I didn't mind the thought of sharing a apartment with somebody else, because of the simple fact that me and my husband were already going through hard times. We were trying to get his green card, especially, and that costs a lot of money. So we decided it would be better to get a roommate, so then we could half the rent. We would pay less than we would have to, and it would be easier for us to maintain, so it would just go half on the bills. Well, of course, my husband didn't like this idea. He said no, he didn't trust her. She had a kid, and he just felt signs that were just all wrong, everything was wrong. My only thing was I felt bad for the kid. I know growing up I had a lot of cousins who needed a place to stay with their kids, and I know my grandmother was always there with the open door, so I wanted to do kind of the same thing. So I was like, let's just do it for her kid. So time goes by where we're signing leases and everything like that to move in with her, and we finally get an apartment, and there's a master bedroom, and then there's a regular bedroom, and then a bathroom across the hall. So out of respect for, the kid, I say, well, let's give her the master bedroom. I know we're the married couple, but I want to give her the master bedroom because, of course, my husband is international, and not saying that he would do anything to someone's kid. I just didn't want her to get the wrong idea about my husband. I didn't want it to become a situation where she felt my husband was making her or her daughter uncomfortable, which I know wouldn't happen, but I just wanted to make sure of it. I didn't want anybody accusing my husband of anything because, some people do that. So I wanted to make sure that her and her daughter were comfortable and that they had the master bedroom with the master bathroom. So we were fine with this situation, working all out, and then it got to the point where it just became a problem with touching our things. Me and my husband do have a 55-inch TV. We had a PS4, and we had a sound bar that we had, and it was just something that me and him decided to get. I actually got it for him for a Christmas present. So he took very good care of his things. He didn't want, her daughter touching them or anything like that. So we tried to make it so, her daughter wouldn't touch anything, but then her daughter would throw tantrums. So we ended up moving the TV and PS4 and everything into the bedroom. So we moved everything into the bedroom, and they had no use of TV. They had no TV, but we did have a spare TV that we loaned them, and she eventually got a Fire Stick and would use that to watch TV. So she had a smaller TV, and we had the big TV. So on this time when we moved in around 2 weeks before I was laid off / quit from Target. And around that time I had a lot of days off, so I was watching her daughter. And Nicole, again, confided in me that she believed that her baby daddy, and let's call him David. She believed her baby daddy, David, was in the mindset to rape their daughter. to rape or molest or hurt their daughter in any way. Like, that's what she believed. That was 100% what she told me. She didn't want her daughter anywhere near her father. And it was because there was a lot of things in her father's past that just were red flags for her, and they were married and got a divorce because of those red flags. So she let me know that that was just something that I should consider when he came over, that he was supposed to have time with his child, that I would kind of keep an eye out and make sure that nothing ever happened. So a little bit later down the road, you know, everything's going fine. She's kind of paying her rent, like she's paying half her rent and we're paying half our rent. And I'm the one, of course, who's writing the checks and everything for the rent. She just has to deposit the money in our account. So she would send it through like the Cash App, and we would go ahead and, you know, write the check as soon as she sent it through the Cash App. Well, it got to the point where she started was a few dollars off because, you know, her paychecks weren't adding up correctly, or something happened to where she had to spend money. And she was excessively spending money. She spent some of her paychecks on like a new desk. She was planning on going to school. And not saying like anybody who hasn't gone to school and then buys a desk to go to school isn't planning on going to school, but she had been saying like forever since I knew her that she was going to go to school. And went and got a tattoo. So yeah. And she got a new bed set, of course, like I said, and she got new like Chester and dresser sets for her and her daughter, as well as got her daughter her own bed and everything like that she wanted her to have. So she was pretty much setting up home, which I was totally fine with. It was just like I needed her and wanted her to pay rent, because I felt like it was a little unfair to kind of put a little bit more on us to try and pay for everything. So it got to the point where she was $100 late for rent, and my husband said that he felt that I needed to talk to her, you know, since she was my friend, since I was the one who came up with the idea for her to move in with us and for us to like all live together. He felt like I should talk to her, so I decided to talk to her about it, and she told me that she was just a little late on things and that she was going to pay for her rent and for me not to worry. And I was like, okay, you know, that's fine, whatever. And eventually, like, as time went on, her parents and her family brought her stuff that they had of hers from New Mexico. They brought her stuff down from New Mexico all the way here, and they brought it in like a truck trailer or something, and apparently it had been in storage. They gave her all of her clothes and, you know, photo albums and everything like that, which wasn't a problem. But it became a problem when all of a sudden I'm waking up in the middle of the night itchy. And I don't know why I'm itchy. Come to find out, she ended up having bed bugs in the items that her family brought to the apartment. She had bed bugs, and of course when she would come in the room with me and try and talk with me, she was spreading them into our room. And so I ended up being the only one in the apartment that got bit by the most bed bugs. I was crying with how much pain I was in, how itchy I was. And it was horrible. It was so horrible. And she would have like little bites here and there and would say, we need to go to the leasing office about this. But she was the problem. She was the reason that we had them. So it wasn't like it was the leasing office's fault. It was her fault. And eventually it got to the point where she would come home like stumbling belligerently drunk. She was spending all of her money on alcohol. There's been times where, you know, she and a friend she invited over, they went out to a bar and they hooked up with some guys and hooked up with each other, and like she was doing all of these different things that were very unnecessary and very kind of inappropriate, especially with me and my husband living there. She would tell me it's fine because she would drop her daughter off at her grandmother's house or with her father, like her baby daddy, so it didn't matter to her. But I will say that if me and my husband were to have like relations, that she would talk about us, but she could have them anytime she wanted to, and it didn't matter. Anyways, back to the story. Sorry about that TMI, but okay. Anyways, it just got out of hand, and I tried to talk to her about it, and she just wouldn't hear me out. She just didn't want to hear me out about anything. So I finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I've had enough of this. So me and my husband planned to have an intervention with her, to plan to talk to her. And that same day, she texted me and told me that her baby daddy was getting kicked out of his apartment. And he was getting kicked out of his apartment because she was asking for nearly all of his paycheck in child support. So, and that really made me mad, because you were asking him for all of his money in child support, but you never could try and keep up with paying rent. You never had enough money to pay rent when you were taking his entire child support. So that became a thing. Well, another thing was she decided to have him move in with us without talking to me or my husband. The same man that you said you feared would rape or molest your daughter, you are inviting into our home. Now, in the comments below, please let me know if this makes any type of sense to you guys. That would be a huge no-no for me. If I thought somebody was gonna rape or molest my daughter, I wouldn't invite them anywhere near me or a whole other woman with her husband at all. That's scary. So I told her no, she could not get this man into our apartment. There was no way. And if he came, he would have to pay rent. So we were going to split the rent 3 ways. She told me, you guys are going to continue paying your rent. He's going to pay me half of what my rent will be. So me and him will be splitting her part of the rent. And then me and my husband would pay our part. So the apartment probably was like, I want to say it was like $1,300. So we were each paying like $650, and that's before, like, you know, electricity, internet, all this different type of stuff. So what she was saying was we were going to continue paying $650. Her baby daddy was now going to pay $325, and she was going to pay $325 in order for him to live with us. No, I was not having that. I was already furious about this, because this was the same thing she was trying to get me and my husband to do. When we first were trying to move in with her, she talked about rent and said we should split it 3 ways, for my husband, for me, and for her. When that is not how it goes. It should be families. So it should be my husband and me, one family, her and her daughter, one family. This baby daddy was not a part of your family. So why are you trying to make it so that you guys are going to go half on your side of the rent? That is very unfair. So I had a huge problem with this. So I told her he is not coming in here, and if he does, we're going to have some problems. So she had this huge calendar on the wall that she would put everything down. So she would need a babysitter for her daughter this day. She was going to go to community college this day to try and register again. She was going to do all these different type of things, and she had them set on this calendar. Well, during this time, I did not have a job. So I decided that I was going to be petty. So I decided that I was going to write on there that I was going to have interviews every single day of the week, and was not gonna babysit. And I put sticky notes everywhere. Everywhere. No. Because people don't think about, when you make me mad, you don't want to make me mad. Bottom line, you don't want to make me mad, because I do, and I say things that I don't mean, but when I look back on them, I don't care or regret that I did it. So I told her on the sticky note, be sure to find you another babysitter because I'm not doing it anymore. So she got mad and said, you need to list the times of your interviews. I said, I am not a mother. I am not required to babysit anyone. She didn't like that. So she tried to come at me the wrong way, and I told her, I'm like, hey, look, I didn't give birth to a child yet. I am not going to watch your child when you have him here. No, I'm not going to do it, because you told me you were scared he was going to rape and molest your child, and I even said it in front of his face. And she said, well, what else was I supposed to do? Okay. So during this time, he's staying there, and I'm like badgering her over this stuff. And I'm telling him, like, you don't pay rent to her, you pay it to me. But of course, he was scared of her because she would apparently like beat him and stuff. So he would automatically pay her rent, and then she wouldn't pay us rent in return. She was actually planning on, finding another apartment. Well, this really made me mad, because not only was she trying to find another apartment and was saving money and not paying rent, she was also eating everything that me and my husband were putting in the fridge. So it really ticked me off, Why are you eating our stuff? Why are you not planning on paying your rent? And why are you trying to move out and leave us with the bill? So, it got to the point where I became super, super petty. So when it came to, me and my husband talking about stuff, I talked really loud. I turned the TV up really loud. Like, our rooms were really close, so I would turn the TV up really loud when she was trying to go to sleep. And what's funny is, she kept us up anyway. Like, she made it a big deal that we had the TV up, but she kept us up anyway because she was still nursing her 3 to 4-year-old. And her 3 to 4-year-old at one time even bit her on the cheek because she told her she would not nurse her. And she bit her on the cheek, and she finally let her nurse. She was just horrible. She was horrible. And so the day that she decided to move out, she brought somebody with her from Target that she called her friend, and they were moving everything out. Well, I was home by myself, of course, and of course I started to notice things disappearing in the kitchen. I started to notice things disappearing, all around the apartment, and I went into her room. We're paying rent. You haven't paid us rent yet. I went into her room, and I looked through the room, and sure enough, she took things that me and Rome had bought. So, you're stealing from us now. So I took my TV, I dumped all of her stuff out of my bins, and took them into my room. And sure enough, I was petty, and she didn't say anything when she got home that day. So moving on, it was about a weekend, and she was getting more people to come and help her. And somebody, they knew me from Target. They knew how sweet I was. They were asking me why all this was happening, and I told them she knew she was doing wrong, but she couldn't say anything because she knew that she was doing wrong. Like, what else could you do? Lie and say you didn't do anything? Different type of stuff. So I was saying like a lot of petty stuff, obviously. So it even got to the point where she accused me of stealing things from her and going into her room. So the girl who was there that worked at Target that knew me, she asked me, did you really steal some things from her? I said, I stole my TV back and I stole my bin back. So if that means I stole from her, then yes. And I yelled when she walked back into the apartment. I yelled, and I want the rest of my bin. I wanted my stuff. Don't take my stuff. That's just one thing that I don't like. You disrespect me and my husband, and then you take our stuff. I don't like that. She was taking a lot of our cooking utensils. And I forgot to mention. So anybody who knows me knows I love coffee. Just a little side note. And my husband bought me a coffee maker for Christmas before we moved in with her. While we were on vacation, we went to Arkansas. She broke my coffee maker. She broke it. So she bought a new one and said, here, this is a replacement. So she was getting ready to take that coffee maker with her. No. I took that right back. And I didn't give it back. I wasn't going to give it back. She asked about it and I told her, no, I'm not giving it back. You broke mine and now that one's mine. So, I mean, that was just what it was. Like, you didn't have to break my stuff. You didn't have to use my stuff. So, don't do that. It got to the point where she took, like, a lot of stuff from us. She took, like, a lot of, towels. She took a lot of, like, little miscellaneous things that we had laying around the apartment. She took. Most of those weren't as big of a deal as, like, the coffee maker and the TV and stuff. But I did, however, take a lot of our stuff back. Like, she would pack stuff, and then try and, like, put it up to where you couldn't go through it. And I, of course, I was home all day. Like, I didn't have a job. I was home all day, and I would take my time, and I would look all through her stuff. And it didn't bother me because I knew that most of the things that were in her boxes were mine. So it just wasn't that big of a thing. And then it also irritated me the fact that whenever I would go into the kitchen, most of our food was gone. So I even had to put up like sticky notes saying like, we buy the food. If you don't contribute to buying food, do not eat it. One day she let her child, she was letting her child starve. There was nothing for her child to eat. And of course there was like a Chinese place like right up the street. I decided to go and get me and her daughter some food. And I got her like a little bitty tiny box thing of like some food, like some sesame chicken and rice. Well, her daughter of course didn't eat all of it, but I put it in the fridge for her. And she came home and ate that. She ate it. And I told her she had to pay us back for it. Man, I told her she had to pay us back for it. Because it bothered me. I buy food for your daughter to eat because you're letting your daughter starve because you don't want to spend any money on her and you eat it. How low down can you be? Like literally, how low down can you be to take your daughter's food? Anyways, long story short, I locked her at the apartment so she couldn't come and get her stuff until she talked to me about the situation. She called the police on me. The police made me let her get her things and leave. I did make a long Facebook post about her, dissing her, especially talking about the whole, baby daddy thing. And then I did, end up, she gave us, $80 for rent. Only $80. We did take her to court about it, and she did have to pay us some more money that we're trying to get from her right now. It's really hard to, claim stuff from small claims court, so we're trying to get that from her, now. She made me so mad. Eventually, when I would go to visit Target, the place that I worked at, she eventually got me banned from that specific Target for the simple fact that she said I was harassing her. I never once walked up to her. I never once said anything to her. I never looked her way. I didn't care about her. She was irrelevant. I had what I needed to have from what she tried to steal from me. So there was literally no reason for me to harass her. I walked in there one day, and after 5 minutes of being in there, they asked me to leave. And of course I asked why should I leave? And they said, well, we've gotten reports that you are harassing one of your ex-coworkers. We just want this to be a really safe environment for all of our workers. So unfortunately, we're going to have to ask you to leave and not return for the safety of our workers. Okay, let her fill you guys with your lies. I did call Target headquarters, of course, though, to report that she was sleeping around with a lot of the employees. I don't know what happened after that. I left it anonymous, but I said I knew for a fact that she slept with at least 6 or 7 of them. She probably had some type of STD. I I don't know. I don't want to say she had one, but she probably did with how many guys she was sleeping with. Like, she could see a guy one day and then would tell me the next day, like, she slept with him. So, I don't know. But that was a thing. So, yeah. So, hopefully after hearing my horrible roommate story, this kind of changes you guys' views on roommates, especially those of you who are, you know, getting into adulthood, or you're going to college and you want to try and get like a roommate or something like that. Just to be on the lookout and make sure that you trust people, make sure that you keep track of your stuff, as well as you make sure that the person who you are roommates with respects you and you respect them. I would say don't settle for anything less. Don't let somebody feel like you don't belong in some place that you are paying for. Like, whether it's like you're staying in an apartment with a friend or somebody you just know, or you're staying in a dorm with somebody you just know or you're friends with. You are paying for that, and I would say that don't let them make you feel like you're not, like that you're doing them a favor, because you guys are working together to live with each other. Like, you're both paying for it. So that's just my little opinion on the whole roommate thing. So yeah. Alrighty, so thank you guys for watching Serious Saturday today. So this is like the roommate edition. And I appreciate all you guys for your likes, your shares, and your comments. As well as I hope that you guys are pressing that subscribe button and remembering to check in with me every Friday and Saturday. I love you guys and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Remember to like, share, subscribe to my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
아름다워